Hello, I'm Mayor Coleman McGee, and this is the last Learning Tree Book Club monthly meeting. And I'm going to be reading excerpts from the book Homegoing. Big man lowered his hand. He stared at her carefully for a while longer, and Essa tried to read the look that passed between them. Big man said, "But tomorrow I will bring her out here. She will carry water from this yard to that tree there." And if even so much as a drop falls, then I will take care of it. Do you hear me? Ma'am nodded. And Big Man shook his head. He had always told anyone who would listen that he had spoiled his third wife, seduced her, seduced by her beautiful face and softened by her sad eyes. Ma'am and Essie went into their hut and found there's an echo. I don't know how to get rid of this echo. Um, and found a Brahminer curled up on a bamboo cot, living up to her name of a little bird. Hey, Yvette.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Hello, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to
Uh,
see you too.
what do you have? Are you reading?
Am I reading? I don't have the book.
Oh, you got if you got um Bible in it, a magazine, you can read anything.
Oh, just something to read? Oh, just to read something?
Okay, okay.
Oh, you all
There's a this is my first time using YouTube.
it's your first time?
You got a magazine or a Bible
I got
or
my Bible in
spiritual
the
book?
year. Wait, hold on.
Okay, go ahead. And I'll be reading
I'm
while you
sorry.
until
But
you come back.
okay, I'll read one of my scriptures for today. Okay.
Okay.
You gonna read?
You go ahead, Yvette.
Oh, okay. It's December 6th, and it's from the book of Hosea, the fourth chapter, 1 through 5 and 15. It says, hear the word of the Lord, O people of Israel. The Lord has brought charges against you, saying there is no faithfulness, no kindness, no knowledge of God in your land. You make vows and break them. You kill and steal and commit adultery. There is violence everywhere, one murder after another. That is why your land is in mourning, and everyone is wasting away. Even the wild animals, the birds of the sky, and the fish of the sea are disappearing. Don't point your fingers at someone else and try to pass the blame. My complaint, you priest, is with you. So you will stumble in broad daylight, and your false prophets will fall with you in the night. And I will destroy Israel, your mother. My people are being destroyed because you don't know me. Since your priests refuse to know me, I refuse to recognize you as my priest. Since you have forgotten the laws of your God, I will forget to bless your children. The more priests there are, the more they sin against me. They have exchanged the glory of God for the shame of idols. When the people bring their sin offerings, the priests get fed. So the priests are glad when the people sin. And what the priests do, the people also do. So now I will punish both priests and people for their wicked deeds. They will eat and still be hungry. They will play the prostitute and gain nothing from it. For they have destroyed the Lord to worship. They have deserted the Lord, to worship their God, other gods. Wine has robbed my people of their understanding. They also they ask a price of food for advice. They think of they think a stick can tell them the future. Longing after idols has made them foolish. They have played the prostitute, serving other gods and deserting their God. They offer sacrifices to idols on the mountaintops. They go up into the hills to burn incense in the pleasant shade of oaks, poplars, and terebinth trees. That is why your daughters turn to prostitution and your daughters-in-laws commit adultery. But why should I punish them for their prostitution and adultery? For your men are doing the same thing, sinning with whores and shrine prostitutes. O foolish people, you refuse to understand, so you will be destroyed.
Okay. And I'll pick back up here then You can read after I read a while. We'll just take turns because it's just today two of us.
Okay.
Okay. Big man. Wait a minute. Okay, ma'am. Woke her and had her stand before them. This is someone going into the hut of big man's third wife. This is set in Africa. It's a fiction story.
Oh,
It's a best-selling book. And I
okay.
had joined another book club, and this is their read for the month.
Okay.
And okay, so she made her stand up. She pulled out a switch
Mm.
that big man had given her. I think this must be one of the elders in the village or either one of his older wives.
Okay.
A switch she had never used. She then looked at Elsie with tears in her eyes. Please leave us. Elsie left the hut, and for minutes after, you could hear the sound of a switch and the harmonizing pitch of two separate cries.
Okay.
The lady is crying, and the lady being his crying.
Yeah, that's how Mama used to be.
Oh,
She
for
was crying
real?
while she was whipping us. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh
Mm,
my goodness, she
yeah.
cried. She couldn't stand it. Huh?
Right.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow.
Oh, it's funny,
What
when
did
you
she
look
whoop
back on
y'all
it.
with?
Hmm?
What did she y'all use a switch?
Yeah, she or a switch or one of those little little rods that came out of the blinds.
Uh-huh.
That the shades that you used to let up. Yeah, they had a
Yeah.
little stick in
Oh,
there.
I see.
Yeah, yeah. She used that
Oh
little
my
wooden stick,
goodness.
and she
And
used to
you
be
talking about
crying.
in the
I hardly ever got
1970s.
a whooping, but
You
I used
talking
to
in the
let my brother.
1970s?
Hmm?
You mean in the 1970s?
Well, yeah. Well, it was in the '60s then, though. But yeah,
Oh, I see.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
I was born before you.
Oh wow. Isn't
Yeah,
that something? She'll be crying when she whooping y'all, huh?
yeah. She be hating to do it.
Oh
But my
wow.
brother used to get it every day. I know why she was crying because she
Who
wish
talking
he'd
about
do better.
Melvin?
Yes,
Oh wow.
he still need a whooping every day.
Oh my lord.
Yeah. Let me see.
Okay, so let's see. The next day,
I don't want to scare people. I'm gonna keep this on my head till I comb my hair.
okay,
What?
the next day, big man called everyone in his
Ooh,
compound
Gunny?
out to see.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. So I'm gonna have to read while I'm riding, okay?
Okay,
Because Gunny is out there to take me to the store.
okay.
Wait, what? Read to Auntie Tacoma here.
Okay.
Okay, you go ahead and read. I'll just take it down.
Okay.
Okay.
Elsie, um, to his compound out to see if a broma could carry a bucket of water on her head from
Oh
the
boy.
yard to the tree without spilling a drop. Elsie and her whole family, for four stepmothers and nine half siblings, scattered around their large yard, waiting for the girl to first fetch water from the stream into a large black bucket. From there, Big Man had her stand before all of them and bow before starting the journey to the tree. He could walk beside her to to be certain there was no error. Now that would have just made me nervous.
Yeah.
The person that's gonna walk beside me and I gotta carry some water without spilling one drop, and I'm just lazy, never do anything, and now they're forcing me to do something.
Yeah. That woo. I'm thinking they might swap me while I'm yeah.
Elsa could see Little Dove shaking as she lifted the bucket unto her head. Ma'am clutched Elsie against her chest and smiled at the girl when she bowed at them. But the look Amber returned was fearful and then vacant. When the bucket touched her head, the family began to jeer. She'll never make it. Oh my goodness.
Oh, see,
Amber.
that'll make you even more nervous.
Big man's first wife said, oh boy, watch. She will spill it out and drown herself in the process. Kojo, the eldest son, said. Little Dove took her first step, and Elsie let out the breath she had been holding. She herself had never been able to carry so much as a single plank of wood on her head, but she had watched her mother carry a perfectly round coconut without it ever rolling off, steady as a second head. Where did you learn to do that? Elsie had asked Ma'am then, and the woman replied, you can learn anything when you have to learn it. You can learn to fly if it meant you would live another day. Oprah steadied her legs and kept walking, her head facing forward. Big man walked beside her, whispering insults in her ear. She reached the tree at the forest's edge and pivoted, making her way back to the audience that awaited her. By the time she got close enough that Elsie could make out her features again, there was sweat dripping off the ledge of her nose, and her eyes were brimming with tears. Even the bucket on her head seemed to be crying, condensation working its way down the outside of it. As she lifted the bucket off her head, she started to smile triumphantly. Maybe it was a small gust of wind, maybe an insect looking for a bath, or maybe the dove's hand slipped. But before the bucket reached the ground, two drops slushed out.
Oh boy.
Essie looked at man who had turned her sad, pleading eyes to Big Man. But by that point, the rest of the family was already shouting punishment. Kojo began to lead them into song. The dove has failed. Oh, what to do? Make her to suffer, or you'll fail too. Big Man reached for his switch, and soon the song gained its accompaniment. The percussion of reed to flesh, the wood wind of reed to air. This time, Abrona did not cry. If he didn't beat her, everyone would think he was weak, Elsie said. After the event, Ma'am had been inconsolable, crying to Elsie that Big Man should not have beaten Little Dove for so little a mistake.
Oh,
Elsie was licking soup off of her fingers, her lips strained orange. Her mother had taken Ever into their hut and made a salve for her wounds. And now the girl lay on a cot, sleeping, weak. Oh, Mame said. She glared at her daughter with malice that Elsie had never foreseen. Yes, Elsie whispered, that I should live to hear my own daughter speak like this. You want to know what weakness is? Weakness is treating someone as though they belong to you. Strength is knowing that everyone
Piggly
belongs to
Wiggly.
themselves.
Okay.
That I should live to
Okay.
hear my own daughter speak like this. Elsie was hurt. She had only said what everyone else in the village would have said. And for this, man yelled at her. Elsie wanted to cry, to hug her mother, something. But ma'am left the room then to finish the chores that Ivor could not perform that night. Just as she left, little Dove began to stir. Elsie fetched her water and helped tilt her head back so that she could drink it. The wounds on her back were still flesh, and the sound that ma'am had made stank of the forest.
Very good. My but I can't understand. I mean, I can hear nothing. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, and
Okay.
I lost my spot.
I'm sorry.
Okay, hold on.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, because I'm
That's
on my
okay.
way to
I
the
looked down and lost my.
on my way to the Piggly Wiggly.
Oh, you going to the grocery store?
Yes, because I
Oh,
had
okay,
got
okay,
he had called, but I didn't know what time he was coming, and he just came.
okay.
Okay, but I still got 48% charge. I guess we can talk to. You can read to me till we get to the grocery store,
Okay.
or unless you want me to pick back up.
No, that's fine. I'm still. Hold on.
So do you usually do this for like an hour or so?
Yeah, an hour and a half. This is our last meeting for the year.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad I
Mm-hmm.
got to join in.
Uh-huh.
Sorry. Yeah. So you do
It's
this
an
every
interesting story.
hmm?
Um, it's an interesting story, and it's sad in the way that the man had all these wives and beat
Yeah.
the one that he spoiled for not uh, doing her chores like
Right.
everybody else. He let it go on so long,
So they had
and
to show
then
her.
everybody started complaining. And you know that's how it is everywhere, and
Yeah.
even in the household. Uh, Somebody's lazy and other people do the chores, and then they complain about it.
Yeah, that's the
Mhm.
truth. Or either somebody wants to get somebody in trouble because they don't want to do their chores and want them to do their chores for them. So they'll tell a lie on them. You know what I mean? A story
Yeah.
like, well, so and so didn't do this or do that. Because I know my cousin Tyrone tried to get me in trouble like that. He said, look at that, because my aunt was always saying good things. That was after my mama died. And we were living with them, and he was like, look at the dishes. Go look at look at the dishes. They ain't clean. He had gone down the basement and got some dirt, near them on the dishes. He's
Mhm.
like, boy, that ain't even the kind of dirt that should be on the plates. You went and got the
how
dirt.
how was your mother when she passed?
35.
Oh, she was 35.
Yeah, yeah.
What did she die from there?
Yeah, sickle cell anemia.
Oh, she had sickle cell.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, but her heart failed. Because there are a lot of complications with that. Because she used to have to go to the hospital every month, and maybe 2 or 3 times for blood transfusions. So, yeah.
Yeah.
We're at the Piggly Wiggly. I
Okay
can listen to
then.
you read until I till my battery goes out. If you want to read, but
Okay then.
I don't know if I can carry my book and read too.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining.
Oh, I gotta call him when I come out. Okay, thank you for having me.
Okay then.
Okay, all right, love.
All right. Bye
Okay, I
bye.
love you and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, love you. Talk to you
Okay,
soon.
all right. Bye bye. Yeah, because I had to be able to call you back. Yeah.
Okay. Elsie, who had not spent more than an hour away from her mother's sight in her life, couldn't
I think
imagine any secrets. She knew the feel of her and the smell of her. She knew how many colors were in her horizons, and she knew each crooked tooth. Elsie looked at Abner, but Abner shook her head and continued to laugh. Your mother was once a slave for a Fonte family. She was raped by her master because she was because he was a big man, and big men could do what they please. Least they appear weak. Elsie looked away, and Abner continued in a whisper, "You are not your mother's first daughter. There was one before you. And in my village, we have a saying about separated sisters. They are like a woman and her reflection, doomed to stay on opposite sides of the pond." Elsa wanted to hear more, but there was no time to ask the dove. Ma'am came back into the room and saw the two girls sitting beside each other. Elsie came, "Come here and let Avril sleep. Tomorrow you will wake up early and help me clean her." Elsie left Avril to her rest. She looked at her mother, the way her shoulders always seemed to droop, the way her eyes were always shifting. Suddenly, Elsa was filled with a horrible shame. She remembered the first time she seen an elder spit on the captives in the town square. The man had said, "Northerners, they are not even people. They are the dirt that begs for spit." Elsie was 5 years old. His words had felt like a lesson. And the next time she passed, she timidly gathered her own spit and launched it at a little boy who stood huddled with his mother. The boy cried out, not for having spit, but for knowing how angry her mother would have been to see her do it. Now all Elsie could picture was her own mother behind the dull metal of the cages. Her own mother huddled with a sister she could never see. In the months that followed, Elsie tried to befriend Abner. Her heart had started to ache for the little bird who had now perfected her role as house girl. Since the beating, no crumb was dropped, no water spilled. In the evening, after Abner work was done, Elsie would try to coax more information from her about her mother's past. "I don't know anymore," Abner said, taking the bundle of palm branches to sweep the floor or staining used oil through leaves. "Don't worry me," she screamed once she reached the height of her annoyance. Still, Elsa tried to make amends. "What can I do?" she asked. "What can I do?" After weeks of asking, Elsie fully received an answer. Elsie sent word to my father, Abner said. Tell him where I am. Tell him where I am, and there will be no bad blood between us. That night, Elsie couldn't sleep. She wanted to make peace with Abner, but if her father knew what she had been asked to do, surely there would be war in her hut. She could hear her father now yelling at Ma'am, telling her that she was raising Elsie to be a small woman, weak. On the floor of her hut, Elsie turned and turned and turned until finally her mother hushed her. Please, ma'am, said, I'm tired. And all Elsie could see behind her closed eyelids was her mother as house girl. Elsie decided then that she could send the message early, early the next morning. She went to the messenger man who lived on the edge of the village. He listened to her words and words of others before setting out into the forest, ever reach Abner's father. It could be dropped or forgotten, altered or lost, but at the very least, Elsie could say that she had done it. When she got back, Abner was the only person yet awoke. Elsie told her what she had done that morning, and the girl clapped her hands together and then gathered Elsie into her small arms, squeezing until Elsie's breath caught. All is forgotten. Elsie asked once the dove had released her. Everything is equal, Abner said, and relief rushed through Elsie's body like blood. It filled her to the brim and left her fingers shaking. She hugged Abner back, and as the girl's body relaxed in her arms, Elsie let herself imagine that the body she was hugging was her sister's. Months went by, and little Dove excited. In the evening, she could be found pacing the grounds and muttering to herself before sleep, My father, my father is coming. Big Man heard her muttering and told everyone to beware of her, for she might be a witch. Elsie would watch her carefully for signs, but every day it was the same thing. My father is coming. I know it. He is coming. Finally, Big Man promised to snap the words out of the dove if she continued. And so she stopped, and the family soon forget. Everyone went along as usual. Elsie's village had never been challenged in Elsie's lifetime. All fighting was done away from home. Big Man and the other warriors would go into the nearby villages, pillaging the land, sometimes setting the grass on fire so that people from 3 villages over could see the smoke and know the warriors had come. But this time, things were different. It began while the family was sleeping. It was Big Man's night in Mame's hut. So Elsie had to sleep in the corner. When she heard the soft moaning the quickening breath. She turned to face the wall of the hut. Once, just once, she had watched them where they lay. The darkness helped her to cover her curiosity. Her father was hovering over her mother's body, moving softly at first, and then with the more force. She couldn't see much, but it was the sounds that had interested her. The sounds her parents made together, sounds that had sounds that walked a thin line, pleasure and pain. Elsie Burr wanted and was afraid to want, so she never watched again. That night, once everyone in the hut had fallen asleep, the call went out. Everyone in the village had grown up knowing what each sound signified. Two long moans meant the enemy was miles off, yet three quick shouts meant they were upon them. Hearing the three, big man jumped from the bed and grabbed the machete he stored under each of his wife's cots. You take Elsie and go into the woods, he screamed to man before running from the hut with little time to cover his nakedness. Elsie did what her father had taught her, grabbing the small knife that her mother used to slice plantains and tucking it into the cloth of her skirt. Ma'am sat at the edge of her cot. Come on, Elsie said, but her mother didn't move. Elsie rushed to the bed and shook her, but she still didn't move. I can't do it again, she whispered. Do what again? Elsie asked, what she was hardly listening. Angeline was coursing through her so adrenaline was coursing through her so urgently that her hands trembled. Was this because of the message she had sent? I can't do it again, her mother whispered. No more woods, no more fire. She was rocking back and forth and cradling the fat flap of her stomach in her arms as though it were a child. Abraham came in from the slave quarters, her laugh echoing through the hut. My father is here, she said, dancing this way and that. I told you he would come to find me, and he has come. The girl scurried away, and Elsie didn't know what would become of her. Outside, people were screaming and running. Children were crying. Elsie's mother grabbed Elsie's hand and dropped something into it. It was a black stone, glistering with gold, as if it had been scrubbed carefully for years to preserve its perfect surface. I have been keeping this for you, ma'am said. I wanted to give it to you on your wedding day. I I left one like this for your sister. I left it with Barbara after I set the fire. My sister, Elsie asked, so what Abraham said was true? Ma'am babbled nonsense words, words she had never spoken before. Sister, babble, fire, sister, babble, fire. Elsie wanted to ask more questions, but the noise outside was growing louder and her mother's eyes were growing blank, emptying somehow of something. Elsie stayed at her mother's at her mother, stared at her mother leave, and it was as though she were seeing her for the first time. Man was not a whole woman. There were large swaths of her spirit missing. And no matter how much she loved Elsie, and no matter how much Elsie loved her, they both knew in that moment that love could never return what Mame had lost. And Elsie knew too that her mother would die rather than run into the woods ever again. Die before capture. Die even if it meant that in her dying, Elsie would inherit that unspeakable sense of loss. Learn what it meant to be unwhole. You go, Mame said, as Elsie tugged at her arms, tried to move her legs. Go, she repeated. Elsie stopped and tucked the black stone into her wrapper. She hugged her mother, took the knife from her skirt, put it in her mother's hand, and ran. She reached the woods quickly and found a palm tree that her arms could manage. She had been practicing, not knowing that it was for this. She wrapped her arms around the trunk, hugged it while using her legs to push her up as far as she could go. The moon was full, as large as the rock of terror was sitting in Elsie's gut. What had she ever known of terror? Time passed, passed. Elsie felt like her arms were encircling fire instead of the tree. So badly were they burning. The dark shadows of the leaves on the ground had started to look menacing. Soon, the sound of screaming people falling from the trees like plucked fruit could be heard all around her. And then a warrior was at the bottom of her tree. His language was unfamiliar, but she knew enough to know what came next. He threw a rock at her, then another, then another. The fourth rock slammed into her side. She still, but still, she held on. The fifth hit the lattice of her clasped fingers. Her arms came undone, and she fell to the ground. She was tied to others. How many she didn't know. She didn't see anyone from her compound, not her stepmothers or half siblings, not her mother. The rope around her wrist held her palms out in supplication. Elsie studied the lines on those palms. They led nowhere. She had never felt so hopeless in her life. Everyone walked. Elsie had walked for miles with her father before, and so she thought that she could take it. They led nowhere. She had never felt so hopeless in her life. Everyone walked. Elsie had walked for miles with her father before, so she thought that she could take it. And indeed, the first few days were not so bad. But by the 10th, the calluses, Elsie's feet split open and blood seeped out, painting the leaves she had left behind. Ahead of her, the bloody leaves of others. So many were crying that it was difficult to hear when the warrior spoke, but she wouldn't have understood them anyway. When she could, she checked to see if the stone her mother had given her was still safely tucked in her wrapper. She didn't know how long they would be allowed to keep their clothes. The leaves on the forest ground were so damp with blood and sweat and dew that the child in front of Elsie slipped on them. One of the warriors caught him, helped him to stand up, and the little boy thanked him. Why should he thank him? They are going to eat us all. The woman behind Elsie said. Elsie had to strain, strain to hear through the haze of tears and buzz of insects that surrounded them. Who will eat us? Elsie asked. The white man. That is what my sister says. She says the white man buy us for those soldiers and then they cook us up like goats and soup. No, Elsie cried. One of the soldiers was quick to run up to her and poke her side with the stick. Once he left her flank throbbing, Elsie pictured goats that walked freely around her village. Then she pictured herself capturing the war, the way she roped his legs and laid his back down, the way she slit her neck. Was this how the white man would kill her? She shuddered. What's your name? Elsie asked. They called me Tansy. They called me Elsie. And like that, two became friends. They walked all day. The sores on Elsie's feet had no time to heal. So soon were they reopened. At times, the warriors would lead them tied to trees in the forest so they could go ahead and survey the people of new villages. At times, more people from those villages would be taken and added to the rest of them. The rope around Elsie's wrist had started to burn, a strange burn, like nothing she had ever felt before, like cool fire, scratch, salty wind. And soon the smell of the wind greeted Elsie's nose, and she knew from stories she had heard that they were nearing Fentanyl. The traders slapped their legs with sticks, making them move faster. For almost half of that week, they walked both day and night. The ones who couldn't keep up were beaten with the sticks until suddenly, like magic, they could. Finally, once Elsie's own legs had started to buckle, they reached the edge of some phantom village. They were all packed into the dark and damp cellar, and Elsie had time to count the group 35, 35 people held together by rope. They had time to sleep. When they awoke, they were given food, a strange pottage that Elsie had never eaten before. She didn't like the taste of it, but she could sense that there would be nothing else for a long while. Soon, men came into the room. Some were the warriors that Elsie had seen before, but others were new. So these are the slaves you have brought us, one of the men said in French. It had been a long while since Elsie had heard anyone speak the dialect, but she could understand him clearly. Let us out, the others tried to Elsie began to shout. Now that they had ear, they could listen. Fanti and Asante, fellow Akons, two peoples, two branches split from the same tree. Let us out, they shouted into their voices grew hoarse from the words. Nothing but silence greeted them. Now in the Learnership Book Club will resume. Um, I think let's see, let's see. January the 4th, 2025 is the next meeting, and the next meeting will be from 10 a.m. Central Time to 11:30 Central, or 11 Eastern to 12:30 Eastern. For 6 years, we've been reading from 2 to 3:30 um, Central Time and 3 to 4:30 Eastern, but we're moving our time up to the morning hours um, to be more convenient for our readers. Thank you for listening. I'm Meredith Coleman McGee, a member of Learner Tree Book Club based in Jackson, Mississippi. Have a wonderful day.